And okay, so then now I realized that that's her name. And then about 13 or 14 years ago, I was riding a train and I had fallen asleep in the train, and I dreamt about this woman, and I saw her from the background in one of these like gray long sweaters that she wears, and it was in the pursuit of another woman, it was in pursuit of another woman, and I saw her in her place, and so I saw her in her place, and I, to be 110% honest, like this is a this was a woman in a relationship um that was difficult for me. Like it turned out that she didn't have the same feelings for me, but it was spiritual in nature. Like my journey with her, with this particular woman, was the first spiritual encounter I had with God. It was the first time that I really began to see God, like working in people, like I just want to quantify that when I use the word God, like we're not talking, even though I'm a Bible person, we're not talking specifically within that frame of context, because that frame of context does a lot of judgment. There's homophobia in there, and there are things that I completely disagree with, even though that's the God that I connect with the most in a way. Okay. But I understand that God is broader than is contained in the Bible. Um, Much broader. Otherwise, it's not God. All right. So yeah. So I mean, I had seen her in a dream about 10 or 13 years ago. You know, and I saw her from the back. I saw her tall. I saw her hair, and her traditional like gray thing or whatever. And it was the first time I had that encounter. Like the first time that I had realized like I had put someone else before me, and I was looking through the Bible and taking bits and pieces. So I was connecting in a higher way. And I remember one morning I woke up and I heard like the singing of cherubs in my ears, like this sort of like classical celestial music. And it wasn't as intense. It was a very pure experience. I couldn't talk like I love Nine Inch Nails and stuff like that, and like hardcore metal, and a lot of that is like there's a lot of anger. I'm not gonna say it's anti-God. There's a lot of anger towards God, and it's like, and a lot of I've been through that. I'm going through that now, like the anger towards God, um, because it's complicated. I think being angry at God. I don't think it's entirely God's. It's not God's fault. Like we agree to incarnate into this world and do certain things, and then we're challenged, to overcome our flesh and become these. Everybody's different. Journey is different. Some people are born and they're like, oh yeah, I'm psychic, cool, I accept that. And they have no resistance. And then some people are and are born into families that fight that. Or I didn't. I was not like that. Um, I didn't come from a family that wasn't supportive of such a thing, but they're traditional Catholics. So a lot of the things that I've experienced would be controversial in those places. But I see how this is sort of beyond religion and having like be beyond the didactic words in the Bible, and rather having a personal experience with a God that's broader than the Bible. You know. Okay. So, but a lot of the things in there are good. What we learn from Jesus Christ is compassion, love, understanding, and awareness of the people around us, right? How to be quote unquote true children of God, right? And what we see in that Old Testament is the reflection of our barbarian natures, because ultimately God is a reflection of ourselves. Feminine elements, masculine elements in the representation and manifestation of God. Okay, stepping away from that for a second, back to this twin flame scenario. So that's another thing, like all these concepts that we have that we think in the Old and the New Testament we do have access to. They are there. Um, if those divine pairs that are in the Bible, you know, Abraham and Sarah, Jacob and Rachel specifically, um, and what's the At least, well, even I think I even consider like John and Christ, that they weren't divine pairs. Obviously, John and Christ weren't sexual, I mean, husband and wife, or in a relationship, but they were paired divinely, like one mission and purpose. They have a united mission and purpose together. It's like we'll take John and Jesus, right? Um, the Bible says that felt John leapt for joy when Jesus' mom Mary came into the room. You know, so even inside they recognize each other as being one in purpose. And when John was killed, Jesus walked away sadly. Contemplatively, and we see tragedy in Jesus' life. And it's one of the times that we see the connection between them two. And obviously John heralded the coming of Jesus Christ. He whose sandals I am not even worthy to tie. Okay. Baptizes with fire. Okay. All right. So moving on from that. All right. So yeah. So I had all these precursors to her, and then my when I was in the proximity of her again, because I had come here and I had met her before, and hadn't I was in the beginning of spiritual awakening, and I was scared.